friends, welcome to Dads and Daddies, a podcast about the lives and times of adult gay men in the here and now. I'm Brian Ruben Sowers, the dad.
And I am Judson Morrow, the daddy.
Hi, Judson.
What up? Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. How are you?
I am very excited to be done working and cruising to the weekend, baby.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm fucking beat.
I feel you, yeah.
There's a lot happening, so that's okay. Like
At work?
Well, just at work, in the world. Like,
Yes.
I understand why I'm exhausted, but also to all my non-sleepers, I feel you. I haven't been sleeping well, and it is taking its toll.
Yeah.
And I feel like the more I worry about it, because I'm like, oh no, if I don't sleep, I'll get sick. And if I get sick, I won't sleep. The worse it gets.
Right.
So I'm trying to be calm.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, pretty good overall.
The gray does not help me. The
Oh, in the
seasonal affective
atmosphere?
disorder is real.
Oh, I always make fun of it. I'm like, oh, are you sad because there's no sun? I'm sad because I was woefully neglected my entire childhood.
I find it so much easier to find energy and be happy and just feel like on a natural high when the sun is out. It can be like...
Yeah, you ever been to Florida? You ever been to California?
Well, yes, I'm from California, but like it can be 0 degrees, but if it is sunny,
Yeah.
I can take it. But the gray, it is so tough to motivate.
I mean, I'm liking when it's sunny out right now because I got new sunglasses that I think are cool. So I'm just like a winter sunglass guy.
Yes.
Fucking douchebag, but whatever.
Can I ask you a question?
Of course, always. Yeah. Brian, what's up?
How often do you need to come?
Oh, need? Oh, gosh.
Like daily?
No, I don't need to come daily. I would say like every other day, every third day. By day 3, I'm feeling it.
Right.
I'm like, I got to get this out of my body.
And how often will you take care of it yourself?
In terms of like the busyness and the tiredness, I actually just created a new schedule for myself.
Okay.
And I decided that weekdays are out for any sort of socializing, including sex.
Oh, wow.
It's like I'm focusing on
This
work.
is new.
Yeah, I'm focusing on work. I'm focusing on exercise, and I'm focusing on sobriety. So, and hanging out with my husband. So like those are my 4. And then sex and socials can come on Saturdays. So this week I've been taking care of it myself, and I'm like perfectly happy to do so because I feel it. I'll be, at home in the middle of my workday and go take care of it, or I'll feel it at work and just know that I can take care of it when I get home. And then maybe some sex will happen on the weekend.
Okay.
Every third day, I would say.
Yeah.
Why? What about you?
Oh, my needs are not nearly what they used to be. And
Of
I
course
just
not.
wonder, I mean, it obviously has something to do with the fact that I'm now 51, but it is just funny. It is a difference that I'm realizing that I have in my marriage, being that I'm 9 years older than my husband. And I'm trying to remember when I was your age, because you and my husband are only a few days apart in age. If at 42, I was still needing to come on a regular basis, which I think the answer is yes. I just don't remember. The reason this came up is because, and we're going to get to this in our longer segment today, is that I was trying to arrange a threesome on Saturday that was never 100% confirmed, and it was my fault for not communicating that to Toby properly, and then it didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was frustrating to him because
He wanted to get off?
he would have taken care of it another way.
Oh, yeah. Got it.
For me, like, I don't masturbate much anymore because I can go a fairly long time now, and I'd rather it either be when I hook up with Toby or when I hook up with somebody else. And I see it as like wasting an opportunity if I do it myself.
Mm-hmm.
It will happen, but I guess I did used to masturbate daily.
I think of it as like, to me, it's ease of use. Like if I don't have to get online and like arrange a thing and go somewhere, I have been enjoying masturbation a lot lately just because it's like the most convenient thing for where my life is. I'm content, and it's 50-50, like whether I use porn or whether I have a pretty good imagination.
Yeah.
So I can just think of a scenario.
Yeah, I
and
only
have
use
it be a thing.
imagination.
Yeah. No porn?
No.
Yeah, so probably every third day. I can also depending on how busy I am, even though for me to get myself off, it takes like 2 minutes, the day might just be too busy or I might be too tired at the end of the day. But I kind of like to take care of it in the morning, like as part of my routine. Like wake up, coffee, workout, Shakti mat.
Yes.
It's back for the 3rd episode, but that's all I'll say about it. And then jack off in the shower because then it's like done. Then I can focus.
I agree with that. And I think once upon a time, that's also what I would do. And if I do it, it probably does happen in the morning. But I also think of it like, well, I don't know where this day is going to take me. And if I do this now, then
You're
if
limiting
some
yourself.
time opens up.
Yeah.
The other thing I want to ask you, and I've been debating whether I ask you now or if we even save it for a longer episode, because I've been debating whether we should do an episode about like hookup logistics.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Because again, maybe this has to do with my age and my needs. Maybe this has to do with my work schedule, because I'm very busy at work. And when I'm not busy at work, I am busy either with the Parents Association for the school or with the kids themselves or you know, I mean, there's so many things on my to-do list. But it seems to me that you and my husband have a success rate with making hookups happen that I just can't achieve. That being said, I only feel like that on days where it's those, you know, either droughts or those days where it feels like it's going to happen 10 times and at the last second, the person's like,
oh, right.
Oh, I can't host, or, oh, I didn't mean for now.
I'm in Minneapolis.
Oh, a call just was put on my calendar. I mean, the amount of excuses that happen, and they happen like all on top of each other. It's not like...
Totally.
I either get one day where everybody's ready right now, or I get a day where everybody says they're about to be ready, or it seems in my mind to be going down that path. And then it turns out it's excuse after excuse after excuse.
I don't mind an excuse, whatever it is. What I do mind is like no response.
Right.
I actually had this happen recently, and and we can save it for another episode, but just very quickly. So I had been talking to this guy who lives in Jersey City, and folks, to set up for you what it's like to get to Jersey City from Brooklyn, it's at least an hour and a half. It's a 2-river crossing.
Right.
I used to live in Jersey City, and it was actually very convenient to get to the west side of Manhattan where I worked. I loved it. That back and forth was easy. Getting to...
How would you even do it from here?
You would take the subway to World Trade Center or to Greenwich Village and then take the PATH train. But it's not far by way the crow flies, but I don't have a car.
Right.
So this guy and I had plans for Saturday, and all week, he was like, I can't wait for Saturday, this, that, and the other. Like every day he was contacting me to tell me how excited for Saturday he was. And on Friday night, he had told me that he was going to see a Broadway production on Saturday afternoon, would be home around 5, message me, and then I'd come over. Message him in the morning, looking forward to seeing you today. Let me know when you're done with the show. 4 o'clock, I'm like, hey, is your show out? Like, hit me up. I want to leave for Jersey soon. Because here's the thing, you're planning to get there, but you also have to plan for the return.
Yeah.
Right? And on weekends in New York, New Jersey, the later you try to come back, the just more stressful it becomes because the trains come less frequently. They might be on some like modified schedule.
Yeah.
So at 8 o'clock, this guy's like, oh, hey, sorry, I forgot to look at my phone. And let me say this, residents of Jersey City, okay? I'm sorry, you're not the 6th borough. You are an outlier. I know this because I have lived there, and I say this from lived experience. If someone from the city is willing to come to your apartment, if someone is going to make a 3-train trek to your apartment, check your fucking phone.
But also, who doesn't check their phone?
That's what I thought. I was like, okay, like, so you went to a Broadway show without checking your phone or without bringing your phone with you? So he's a block because for me...
Oh, for sure.
You know, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me.
It takes me you have to fool me about 5 times, but yes, I agree.
So to not set myself up to get fooled again, I was just like, I'm not gonna fuck with this guy. And listen, again, residents of Jersey City and Hoboken, I'm happy to come over. Truly, like I will make the trek. I will probably be more interested in doing it when the weather is nice. But if we make a plan and I can get back to Brooklyn before 10 or on the weekend 11, like I'll do it. But this is I'm not kidding you. This is the 5th person from Jersey City who I was willing to go to Jersey City to hook up with who has done this to me.
Do you think they have like a secret society to punish those of us in the city?
Sorry, who has done this to me? It didn't happen to me. It happened and it had an effect on me. But it's just like, I'm not even logistically, folks, too, when I work in Lower Manhattan. So when I'm in Lower Manhattan, Jersey City on the Sniffies map is very close.
Right.
It's like half a mile across the water. So it's very easy.
Across the water.
But across the water. So I don't know. He made me think about how many times I've been willing to go see men in this particular area. And it's this particular area. I've been all over this town for hookups, like Broadway Junction, Jackson Heights, never the Bronx because I'm never close enough on the map for people to see me. But like I will travel. And now I'm just like, I'm good.
Right. So as somebody who makes plans on the apps, which is something I don't often do, what's the percentage when they get canceled that you're the one canceling versus they're the one canceling?
Me canceling?
Yeah.
20%.
Yeah.
They're canceling 80%.
Yeah.
I tend to commit, and I really only cancel if I'm not feeling well.
Right.
Let me broaden that. So if I've agreed to bottom and I just have like non-bottom tummy that day. It's just like,
I mean, that counts as not feeling well.
Well, yeah, and I'll say like, hey, I'm not in a space where I can bottom. How do you feel about these other things? And if they're not into getting fucked or like getting head or trading head or whatever, which I understand. Like when I'm in the mood to bottom, I'm in the mood to bottom.
Yeah.
So, and when I'm in the mood to top, I'm in the mood to top. If they're not into other things and they say no, then we can replan.
Right.
But I also have I'm a good communicator and I'm a good replanner, right? Like if I commit, if say I have a date this Saturday and Saturday I wake up and I'm not feeling well, I'm like, how about next Wednesday, next Saturday,
right.
or 2 Tuesdays from now?
Right.
Like I like to give options to prove that I'm still interested and that it is just like of the moment.
Right.
The flip side of it, like let's be honest, I stayed home and ate McDonald's and watched Star Trek Lower Deck, and I was like very content.
Are we allowed to say that on the podcast? Isn't your husband listening?
He is. He knows. We're not allowed processed foods or sugar in the house right now, and I'm quitting nicotine, so I'm giving myself McDonald's.
Yeah.
And Celsius.
What's Celsius?
So bad for you. It's like a monster.
Oh, yes.
It's got like 200 milligrams of caffeine and then all those L letter supplements.
Right.
No letters.
Okay, entirely different subject now. Another question to ask you, and when I ask you the question, you'll hear maybe you're not the right person to be asking. So I like to stay out of the comments in general.
Of our comments.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Me too. I like to read them.
What's that?
I like to read them.
Oh, no. I like to stay out of the comments.
Oh, okay.
Particularly on TikTok.
Uh-huh.
But I'm also somebody who wants to always be learning, always be doing better. There was one comment I saw on a video that I posted recently that I was curious for your take on, which was a video I posted after, I believe, the intimacy episode.
Mm-hmm.
And it was in response to, or the video was from the Go Ask Your Dad segment. The question was for us to like define sex positivity more concretely.
Oh,
or
sure.
More clearly.
Mm-hmm.
And in my response, and this clip that I took and put on TikTok was where I was saying that I believe that the therapy, psychiatry industries are so successful because of the shame and judgment around sex, and how I feel that if we remove shame and judgment around sex, it would actually solve a lot of the world's problems, that it would be like there'd be less anxiety in the world, all of this. And got a lot of responses that were like 100% and, fully agreed. But this one response that I'm just curious, because I don't understand it and I want to understand it, is somebody said, "Oh, that's such a male take."
Oh, yeah, I saw that one. I listened to it again and I have blinders on. Like, I don't know.
Okay.
Like, I don't know what was particularly male about it. I'd have to go ask and listen. I think there was something about consent in it. And the funny thing is like about how shame fuels therapy.
Yes.
Shame also fuels not therapy.
Right.
Yes, therapy is a multi-billion-dollar industry. It could be even bigger if there was even less shame. Like, people won't even pursue mental health therapy in the fucking first place.
Right.
Especially, it's cultural, it's financial, it's family oriented. It's crazy. Like, that, I remember when I was visiting my mom around my dad's funeral, I had therapy on the Monday morning, and I was like, I'll be over after I have therapy. And my mom goes, what do I need to apologize for?
Right.
I'm like, okay. Well, I've been in therapy for 10 years, so nothing at this point. But like, that's how other people perceive, a loved one's participation. I will go back and watch this, and I'm curious to respond.
Listen, I don't ever want to present things in a way that that feel that way. And listen, not everybody's entitled to their opinion and analysis, obviously, and maybe this is somebody with whom we would have to agree to disagree. But if there's a learning there, I would like to learn it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, we are men.
We are men.
So it makes sense that our perspective, given how we get cultured, even as gay men, would be male.
We are cisgendered white men. We recognize our privilege. When we were at Pride this last year, there was somebody walking around with a shirt. We took a picture with him that said, like, no more male podcasts.
Yeah. No more male podcasters.
But then he said we were okay because we were gay. But, well, like I said when I started, I know that, like, asking another white cisgendered male was probably not the way to get to the bottom of that. But,
yeah.
But hey, I would love to hear more because I always want to do better. And I also just want to, like, take the opportunity to remind our listeners that, like, we're here just speaking from our experience. And, we will always try to bring on more and more guests that can help us round out our experience. But
let's ask Molly.
Yeah.
Send it to Molly.
Let's ask Molly.
She's our resident female perspective.
I know. I have other ideas of women I'd like to bring on the show. And if any of you listening out there have ideas of women that make sense for us to have on the show, or any other diverse perspectives, please send us a message. Anything else before we take a break and come back and talk about playing together?
Oh, I'm excited. Yeah, that's something I really enjoy, so I'm ready to talk about it.
Yes, this is going to be a lot of me asking you questions, I think.
Oh, I love that. I love to just sit here and answer questions. Amazing. Let's do it.
Okay. Playing together. What we mean when we say that is not Judson and me playing together.
But I know some of you are thinking about it.
But, in the apps, often you will see people who are in a couple and they will refer to, we only play together. They use that phrase to talk about when they hook up and hooking up with their partners. So what we want to talk about today is group activity that includes your partner or husband.
Yeah. A threesome with the spouse.
Yeah.
An orgy with the spouse.
Yeah. And the reason I'm excited to have this conversation with you is because it is something that I personally love, but it is very still kind of new to us and rare for us in my relationship. And the last time it happened for us was last May. We were away in London for our anniversary. And it happened there because we find that it more easily happens while traveling.
Plus, you guys don't host here.
We don't host.
Whereas,
that's true.
like, my
that's
husband
true.
and I will happily host at our apartment.
Yeah. And there's a lot to why it doesn't happen for us. Like, yes, hosting is part of it. It's funny. As a parent, I'm going to throw in a kid analogy here. My youngest will tell you that she doesn't like roller coasters. But then when we are in Park City, Utah, where my father lives, there is, in the summer months, there is a mountain coaster, which is a roller coaster that's kind of built into the mountain. And it is as thrilling as any other roller coaster I've been on. And somehow we convinced her to ride the mountain coaster. And she loved it and, like, wanted to go on it multiple times. And after that first trip where she went on it, we even made her film a video talking to her future self to convince herself that she's not afraid of roller coasters, that she likes roller coasters. And then a year later, we went back, showed her the video, but still like kicking and screaming, like crying, would not go on the roller coaster.
After she'd already been on it?
Yes, a year later. And then we convinced her, and again, wanted to go on it again and again, and like as many times as possible. We had to come back a couple days later, go on it again. Anyway, this is my husband with 3 sons. Sorry, Toby. Not entirely true, obviously. There's some hyperbole there, but, and I don't think there's necessarily fear, but there's certainly like, it's not his comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
But, and maybe not every time we've done it, but I would say like a decent amount of the time we've done it, we come out the other side with him saying, no, that was really fun.
Glad.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Really enjoyed doing that. But, it's like I said, we're together now for over 13 years, almost at our 11th wedding anniversary. And, but we've only started to play together in the last few years.
Mm-hmm.
And, again, whenever it's happened, it has been really fun. And, there have been a couple times where maybe it was a little more awkward, but, for the most part, it's been really fun, but it's still not his place of comfort. So when I find that, this is true for anybody, when you're out of your comfort zone, you want to have as much control as possible. So the setting up of these arrangements can be really challenging. And the reason this is top of mind is as I mentioned in the first segment, I tried to make it happen recently with somebody. If you recall, on our Jimbo episode, I mentioned this person I met on Blowers who called me sir. It was a very fun experience. I wanted to introduce
cool.
Toby.
Hot.
And I had been messaging with this person. He was super into it. And we were going to be in this person's neighborhood before we were seeing a show. And so I reached out to him and we made a tentative plan. And I said, like, okay, so show up at your place at 6:30. And he said, well, let's confirm right before because I'm going to be out with a friend.
Got it. And
I was like, okay, well, we'll consider it. We'll plan on 6:30, but we'll look for a confirmation. And then that's the last I've ever heard from this person. Anyway, so kind of tried to like triage and go back and forth, like we're both of us on our phones, like trying to make something happen because we had like built in this like extra time. And it got a little tense because this is out of his comfort zone, like the conversations that I was leading on my end, where I was maybe not saying the exact words that he would have said, and nothing ended up happening. But I thought, let me come to my friend Judson, who I know you guys play together on a fairly frequent basis.
Regularly, yeah.
And so I'd love to know, like, what it looks like when you guys sit down and, well, like, how does it come up that, like, this is what we're going to do? And how do you decide who it's going to be with and all of that?
I would say that most of our threesomes or 3+ get funneled to us by way of one-on-one.
Right.
Like he will hook up with somebody or I will hook up with somebody that somebody will be like, hey, I'd like to meet your partner.
Yeah.
So then we go back to our principal relationship and are like, hey, I had a really fun time with this guy. He wants to meet you.
Yeah.
Are you interested? So there's a lot of like conferencing, right? Like we're sitting at the table or sitting on the couch, showing pictures back and forth, describing the experience. And then once we get a go from the other person, we kind of start the planning.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, there will be someone online that just in general is like, hey, you two are hot.
Yeah.
Like, would the two of you like to meet up?
Because you're identified online as being a couple?
I'm sneaky. I am not identified in a partnership on Sniffies.
Okay.
But I do say it if it gets there.
Right.
Like I don't say open, I don't say in a relationship.
But if somebody says to you, you two are hot, like you were just describing, like how do they know?
They know from either his profile, which is more explicit about it, or when I am talking to somebody. I would say a really common question if I'm talking to someone anymore, because we talked about this on a previous episode, like the affection that we give to single guys. I will now say, before I will ever hook up with anybody, hey, FYI, I'm married and open. Are you down for NSA fun with a married dude? And very frequently, said contact will be like, oh, you're married? Like, is he hot? So it can go from a one-on-one into a group scenario like pretty fluidly.
Right. You don't use Scruff much, right?
I actually I deleted it.
Okay. But when you were on Scruff, were you linked to
I was.
Bruce?
You could see us. And that wasn't the reason. I wasn't like, I'm getting rid of this because you can see that I'm partnered. And I guess a criticism of my activity on Sniffies would be like, well, if you're so proud of your open marriage, like, why don't you just say so? And it's like, well, sometimes you can massage a situation into something meaningful for everybody.
Right. No, I get that. More options if, like, let you control the information.
Yeah, more options, sure. And don't get me wrong. Like, I tell people, I send a Facebook, I send body pics. Like, I feel like I send a lot of information.
Yeah.
And it works out in my favor because it's like, here it is. But as far as threes, it tends to happen like on the weekend when we're both home. We tend to host because that's easy for us when we're both home. We get a commitment from the guy. He comes over at specified time. And if it doesn't work out, I have plenty of things that I can do. I don't think I understand the situation where you guys found yourself where it's like dude canceled or ghosted or whatever we want to call it. But then you are still horny. So you're kind of like scrambling to find a hookup. I, at that point, like walk away and do something else.
Right.
Pretty happily so.
Yeah.
I'm never like pissed off about it.
Right.
I'm just like, oh, that's a bummer.
It wasn't like, it didn't like end the evening or it didn't become a big fight or anything like that. But like, it was like tense for a little bit. And I mean, there was definitely like some frustration and I get it. And I felt like responsible. And so I really wanted to fix it. And so I really wanted to be the one to, and I thought I'd found like the perfect solution. Like this other guy all of a sudden was super into us, was super hot. And on the map, this was on Blowers, on the map looked right on the way to where we were going. And then, of course, further conversation, he was like, oh, I can't do it now.
Yeah,
and
of course.
I don't know why. We never clarified why he showed up on the map where he showed up, but he lived nowhere near that.
Yeah. They're like, oh, I'm with a friend, but I actually live in Jersey City.
So the whole thing was a fail. And so anyway, we talked about like, okay, well, let's try to figure out like, let's like close this deal. I mean, not necessarily with that person, but like just for the two of us sometime soon on a work day when we're both just like, home and free enough to make it happen. So we can just like put that to bed because it's been a long time. And then I said like, hey, maybe we like make a commitment to doing this like once a month. And
it's funny because Bruce and I had a commitment once a month to go to a museum. High culture, low culture. A commitment once a month.
Wait, which one's high and which one's low? Are you judging?
No, I'm going to let the listeners decide.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I love that. And I don't know.
Didn't love that. He said, let's just do the one first.
Yeah, or like don't put any undue pressure on it.
Right.
Like, oh, our threesome's coming up.
Right.
Like it's January. Today's the 31st. It's like, oh, we didn't have a threesome in January. We better hurry up today.
Right.
But I understand. It can happen. I do think like your biggest obstacle, and I understand exactly why you've made the decision you have made, is that you don't host.
Right.
It's so much easier.
Well, and I will say that we have in this situation because, and it's only happened once, if I can remember correctly, but our very first, well, maybe not our very, very first. Our first was kind of like a spontaneous drunken hot tub moment in Fire Island. But that like didn't last long and didn't really come to fruition. And it was just like a moment, but it kind of opened, it opened the door. But there had been a kind of a friend who was not a close friend, but a close friend of a close friend of ours.
Yeah. Got it.
And one night in Fire Island, he had mentioned to me how fun he thought it would be to tag team me with my husband. And so months later, once we had like that gate had been opened, and I mentioned this to Toby at the time when it happened. He's like, "Oh yeah, he's hot. That would be hot." And for years and years and years and years, Toby has said like, "We'll get there. And now we finally gotten there. And of course, like, give me an inch, I want a mile kind of a thing. Like, I just want more and more.
Of course.
Because I've also realized about myself, by the way, that like, yes, I love group activity, but I hate to tell you this, Toby, like I love it most when he's involved. So anyway, we, our first threesome.
That's really sweet.
Yeah, I mean, it's like
That's sweet.
the compersion is real. Like, I love watching him with somebody else. Like, it's like I find that so hot. And I just, I love sharing that with him, and I love like walking into somebody's place with him. I love leaving somebody's place with him. I just like, I don't know, like there's
I love to leave a sex party with my husband.
Yeah.
It's a very unique feeling. And then like go get like halal on the street. I feel so fucking cool.
Yeah.
Like just I got this.
So this first one was arranged with this friend of a friend who had mentioned to us that he wanted this to happen. And we and Toby took the lead because, again, like, I mean, Toby's the most easygoing person anybody could ever hope to meet until you marry him and you realize that like he likes everything the way he likes it. And so
that's me too.
What's that?
That's me too.
Yeah,
Bruce is like, everyone in your life gets amusement park Judson. Like, he is so fun.
Yes.
You're fucking psycho.
Yes. Bruce and I can relate on marrying these 42-year-old Ohioans who present one way. No, I mean, obviously my husband's the best, but and it's fine, and he's like so good at what he does lead on, so it works. But so anyway, he took the lead on setting this up. It was via Scruff, but with a friend, and we went to this person's apartment. And then the second time we saw this person, we invited him here because this was a friend and it felt comfortable. But that's the only time we've hosted here.
Sure.
And then, like you described, one of the only other times that we've hooked up with somebody else, and we've hooked up with this other person together a couple of times, is somebody that was a one-on-one of Toby's that he then said, like, oh, I think you would like this guy. Or the guy said, like, oh, I'd love to meet your husband. And then that happened a few times. But yeah, I guess I'm just curious, like, do you sit with each other and say, hey, wanna find some fun? Or
not really.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
It'll be like, we met someone at a sex party, so it's a repeat, or one of our singles who wants to double up will then come over, or we meet someone online who wants to start with a trio. But we never. No, that's interesting. That would be fun. We don't we don't get online together with the express purpose of like finding a third. No.
And that we do when we're out of town. If we're in a hotel room together, we will spend some time like sitting side by side, like, oh, what do you think of this one? What do you think of this one? And like, oh, that one's cute enough. And then like,
when we're out of town, I think the operating assumption is that it will be together.
Right.
Unless the person is like offering to host at their place, which is also kind of fun because you're like in a different city. So you get to like go on the adventure of like finding their place. But also depending on the city, like when we were in Paris, I didn't have any individual hookups. I just went to the bathhouse 4 times.
Right. By yourself or with?
By myself.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the other thing too. Like my husband is super, maybe he gets asked more or maybe he asks me more. He's super gracious about including me. He asks all the time. He's like, hey, so-and-so's coming over. Do you want to hang out? And the reality is like, I just have a lot going on in my life.
Right.
And I'll say like, oh, what time? And if it's 3 p.m. on Saturday, it's like, oh, bro, like I have hot yoga with my girl. Like, thank you for inviting me, but like I have plans. Like besties before testes, you know? I'm not canceling my social engagements to fuck.
Right.
Because I'm this old and I've seen how much sex I've been able to have up till this point.
Right.
And I've also seen how much sex my husband's been able to have up to this point. Like there will be more sex.
Right. There will always be more sex.
So even though that would be a fun way for us to connect with each other, and also it just like seems like a good time, if I already have a thing going on, it's like I keep that thing in place. It's an integrity thing for me.
No, for sure. And then in terms of when you do play together.
Yeah.
As somebody, I know you identify as verse, like how do your roles get defined in these situations? Obviously, it also depends on the person you're hooking up with, but how do you and Bruce like navigate like the roles?
We are more likely to, and this is just for simplification, okay? Like roles are heuristic. So let's say there's just tops, verse, and bottoms.
Right.
Our threesomes tend to be with tops and with verse dudes.
Okay.
Because my husband doesn't top, so a bottom gets kind of like left out of half the satisfaction.
Right.
Unless he wants to like suck my husband's dick while I fuck him. But we rarely have a threesome with like just another bottom.
Right.
So my preference is for verse dudes because the combinations are more plentiful. or top dudes. And depending on my mood, it's like I will watch this guy top my husband while I top my husband, or he'll top both of us. The reality is like I say that I have a preference, but it's just kind of like who's available. Like, is he into both of us, and is he available at a time when I don't have other plans?
Right.
And it's not to say that we haven't, messed around with. Bruce likes to watch me fuck other bottoms, but I don't know. I like to maximize what we can do as a unit.
Yeah.
I like to maximize what we can do as a unit.
Yeah.
I remember we had this really hot hookup in San Juan, Puerto Rico with 2 tops, and we just kept switching beds. Like, we all started as a foursome.
Right.
And then, like, I would go with husband 1, Bruce would go with husband 2, get fucked, and then, like, switch.
Right.
That was fun.
And in that scenario, you bottomed?
I bottomed the whole time.
The whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For 2 tops.
Yeah.
Sick. It was awesome. But like one of the things that we've encountered too, you hear a lot of times that people are maybe like anxious or nervous about threesomes because they don't want to be left out.
Right.
And my experience with that, and he knows this, so I will say it, and we have talked about it. What I have experienced in the past, which we do not experience anymore because we've talked about it, is I often felt left out by proxy of the fact that my husband was a little greedy.
Okay.
Like, if we were meeting with the top, like he would like de facto be the first one to get fucked, or because he arranged the setup.
Right.
Like he got the prize first. And I don't know if feeling left out is the right word, because it would eventually come to me. It wasn't my concern for, is this third person am I attracted to them? It was more so a discomfort with my husband's behavior.
Right.
So we were able to talk, and the solution is very daddy. The solution is being of service to the third person.
Right.
So whatever the third person wants to do, that's such an easy direction to follow.
Right.
But to be fair, I kind of also like the idea, like, finders keepers. If I arrange this hookup, like, I'm getting fucked first. Like, it's not terrible.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I don't know that the order necessarily matters to me, but like definitely the percentage of attention overall.
Correct.
So the only time that we had a threesome that was bad for me was when there was somebody who we were in Fire Island at the pavilion on the dance floor. This guy was heavily flirting with Toby.
Mm-hmm.
And Toby was like, if you want me, it's got to be both of us. And so the guy clearly just wanted to go home with Toby, but then I was like there, and he turned out to be an even bigger bottom than I am. And so like he had zero interest in me, and I really ended up being a bystander. And like I love the idea of like maybe at some point just going and like watching Toby fuck somebody and like just like, live porn and starring my husband. Like, I don't necessarily need to be involved.
That's hot.
But for me, life, and this is not just about hookup, but like life in general is all about expectations. And like, granted, none of us were sober. It was, late on, it was like a Thursday night. So it was our first night arriving in Fire Island. Expectations were high, for the weekend. And so there were probably a lot of just bad decisions made in general in letting this happen. But yeah, for me, it wasn't about like they could have gone on for as long as they wanted, and then if it had become about me, that would have been fine. But like, so it's for me, it's the overall like percentage of attention, not like necessarily who gets to go first.
This happened so long ago, and I would say we don't have bad threesomes either, or bad group play either. I was still drinking is how long ago this was.
Yeah.
And I remember like storming out of a threesome because I wasn't getting enough attention. And that is directly related to my consumption of alcohol at that time. Like, I have a much better control of my feelings. I have a much better control of my confidence.
Yeah.
Alcohol just like doesn't come into the picture. If my husband or the other guy has had like a couple drinks, great. But like Bruce and I have an agreement. Like, if they're fucked up, it's a no.
Right.
Which can
if the
happen.
other person is fucked up.
Yeah, if the other person is fucked up, like, it's a no.
Right.
Which can be, do we call it a problem? It can be the situation in party environments, right? Like, if you meet someone out in Fire Island, and invite them back, they could have been on like mushrooms and drinking all day.
Right.
And for me, I'm just like, you're not really into me or us. You're just into present sense sensation because you're high.
Right.
So
speaking of, this has nothing to do with group activity, but this was an anecdote that came up this week that I meant to mention to you. I was on one of the apps earlier this week, and this guy who I think had said hi to me before, but I either wasn't online or I was just signing off. I don't remember, because he was like very cute. He was online, and so I said hi this time, and I think his nom de plume was like, or his handle was like, just say hi or something like that. So I was like, great, hi.
Cool, hi.
And then he said hi, and we were going back and forth a little bit, and we didn't get very far at all. And I was like, I asked if he was looking, and he's like, well, this was 3:00 in the afternoon. And he said that he was still high from the night before.
Yeah. Good for him for telling you.
Yes, good for him for telling me, but yes.
What are
you doing that you're high?
Crystal meth.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
If you are high at 3 p.m. from the day before, unless you're re-upping pretty consistently with because other drugs you're going to go to sleep.
Right.
Like if you were doing that much ketamine or that much GHB, like you would eventually pass out. My guess is meth.
Yeah, okay.
But hey,
I just needed to clarify that with you because I don't, this is also foreign to me.
Good for him for telling you too, because I think it saves you both time.
Oh, yes.
I appreciate it. Like when people
for sure.
When people tell me that they're partying, I'm like, thank you so much. Like I know exactly how much energy to put into this.
Yeah.
And it's zero.
Right.
Which is great. Like I can move on. It's the worst, and this happened recently, to find out once you get there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's like, oh damn.
Yes.
And then you like go back through the feed and you're like, was it obvious? And it like wasn't totally obvious.
I'm so naive. It's never obvious to me. And so like I'm just going to start screen grabbing and sending him to you.
Yeah.
You're like my like Google Translate.
Totally.
So back to group sex with our husbands.
Yeah.
What am I not asking?
Well, it's like, do you take here's the other thing. A third person can like unlock some doors.
Yeah.
It can also close doors. What I mean is like, are there particular personas or behaviors that you maybe take on with a third that aren't activated just with your husband?
Oh, interesting.
Like, do you get more into role play?
Right.
Do you get more verbal? That's what I mean when I say like a third person can unlock. My husband and I don't daddy son.
Right.
But he will daddy son in group play, either or. Like he's a switch.
Right.
But like we don't.
Right.
But he will with this third person.
Right. Interesting.
I mean, does that have an effect for you guys, or are you just kind of like stick it in me while my husband watches?
I mean, not yet, but again,
wait,
like
have you ever been DP'd?
Yeah.
You have?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. I'm so proud of you. I'm like smiling ear to ear right now. Good for you. I've never been able to.
Yeah. Is that something to be proud of, or is it mean
that is absolutely something that you've been double penetrated. That is absolutely something you should be proud of. That takes some work and experience. You can't just fit 2 dicks into any butthole.
Yeah. I mean, listen, does it last very long?
It's not supposed to.
Right.
It's not a sustainable practice.
Right. I mean, I always find it kind of silly. It's like it's the kind of thing like that little kids do just to show that they can or have done it. Do you know what I mean? Like it's not.
That's yeah. You're absolutely
it's just
right.
It's just to like to see if you can,
right,
and to say that you have, like,
correct.
And is it work for the bottom? I mean, I feel like it's work for the two tops to figure out how to like make it work.
Yeah,
because I'm just there like. Working back there?
Yeah. I mean, I have DP'd someone.
Yeah. And does the level of pleasure increase?
No.
Right.
No.
Outside of it just being like, wow, look at this crazy thing we're doing.
It's definitely work because it's like one guy's on his back and the other guy is straddling him, and then you're trying to come in at an angle from behind. It's a logistical nightmare.
It almost takes you out of it because it's such a logistical conundrum. That like it almost becomes unsexy.
And I don't have a huge dick, which is a pro and a con in that situation, because and the pro is like, oh, there's room for me here.
Right.
But then the con is like, oh, I also can't just like jam it
Well,
in.
exactly.
Yeah. So you have been DP'd. Do
Yes,
you,
been DP'd.
like, what other things have you done in the context of 3s or 4s that maybe you don't in the context? You always kiss.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Do you ever trio side, or is it always sex?
Oh,
I
that's
get side is
interesting.
sex. Sorry, I need to be careful with language.
Right. Right.
Side stuff is sex, but do you always have penetrative sex?
I mean, I think if we're talking about with Toby present,
Correct.
yes, I think there's always been penetrative sex.
Okay.
And so that's another thing is that like when we started, and again, I would say that our experience with this is maybe a handful of times over the last few years. I don't know, maybe 3 handfuls, but or 2. But anyway, I for the first I think few experiences, I was the bottom to 2 tops. You know, Toby would top, and then I'd get another top.
Sure.
They would like share me essentially. Then Toby started to kind of reclaim his versatility, as it were, and was enjoying bottoming again more. And so then he would be verse. He would like they would both fuck me for a little bit, but then he would also get fucked for a little bit. But yes, I think any threesome that we have that Toby and I have been involved with together, it's never been side only.
Okay, perfect setup here for any of our listeners. Seriously, for any of our listeners that are like, oh, I'm anxious because I don't want to feel left out.
Right.
While your husband is getting fucked by a third person, what are you doing with your body?
Well, there's a number of options.
There's so many options. Let's tell people what they can do.
It also depends on how, what position they are in. I could be making out with one of them. I could be getting my dick sucked by one of them. I could be sucking the dick that is not fucking at the moment. I mean, there's sometimes where I'm just like kind of take a seat back and watch and stroking myself.
Yeah, you could be eating the ass of the fucker. You could be giving him a massage. You could be giving your husband a massage. Yeah. I mean this to be purely informational. Like if you're ever concerned about feeling left out, if you're not the one being penetrated, there is so much that you can do. And also, like, it's a great opportunity to take a break.
Yes.
Right? Like, I love to watch my husband get fucked. Yeah. And I'm just like, okay, cool. I'm just going to watch this hot dude fuck my husband. I don't have to do anything.
Right.
I'm just going to enjoy that. And then I can go back to the dick sucking, the kissing, the ass licking, the massage. There's just a lot that you can do if you're not the one being penetrated.
Yeah, for sure. Listen, there is something amazing about the like 2 activities happening at once.
Yeah.
But there is also something amazing, just like sitting back and watching.
What do you do because this has happened for us before too, and I think it boils down to chemistry. What happens when you have this third over and one of you is like more into them than the other? You've discovered after. I'll always engage. Like I'm never going to back out in the middle.
Right.
But like afterward, because we had this happen recently where I was like, about somebody. Because my husband was like chomping at the bit to like reschedule, and I was like,
I don't need to do
pump
that
the brakes.
Yeah. I can't. Well, I mean, we just haven't had enough experience yet. I don't think for that to have happened. I mean, I can think of one where like we both walked away, like that's not happening again.
Yeah.
It was on my 50th birthday. I was like, I want to this is one of the things I want to do on my 50th birthday. We had like 3 things booked for that day.
Couples massage.
No, I wanted us to have a hookup together. There was a new Miyazaki movie, a new Studio Ghibli movie out that day, like The Boy and the Heron. Did you see it?
Oh, I remember. I didn't see it, but I remember it being advertised.
Right.
On other movies I went to see.
And then that night was Madonna's first U.S. concert of that tour in Brooklyn, which felt like, divine
That's a nice full day.
Yes. And one of the 3 was great.
Okay. The movie?
No, the Madonna concert. Even I didn't get that movie, and Toby wanted to, I think, stab his eyes out and was just like suffering through it because it was my birthday. But like we had come from this terrible hookup, went to go see this movie that neither of us enjoyed even a little bit. And I typically love Miyazaki movies, but that one just didn't drive with us. But thankfully, Madonna saved it at the end of the night.
That you also hit on something else, like the sweet side of a terrible hookup with your husband.
Yes.
Like that there is a particular sweetness for you to, and I'm not saying like talk shit about your sexual partners, but for you to walk away with your principal and be like, wow, that was bad.
Well, that's
it's
the thing,
a
is
really
like,
lovely shared experience.
I mean, in the end, that's kind of what it comes down to, is like, I love sharing everything with my husband. I really do. And so, yes, even a bad hookup, like even like walking out and being like, oh gosh, like we're not doing that again. I mean, obviously, I much prefer walking out of a great hookup
Of
with
course,
him
of
and like having
course.
shared that with him. But like, yeah, I love sharing everything with my husband. You know, we used to talk early on in our relationship when we would have these great experiences. Like for him, he always thought like, oh, I really wish I could share this with my sister, and I always thought I really wish I could share this with my mom. But like the primary for me is like, anytime I have a good experience, like, oh, I can't wait to do this with Toby, or you know, if it's family appropriate, I can't wait to do this with the kids. And so, yeah, so like, I just love sharing my life with my husband. And when that can include hooking up with somebody, that's kind of like the pinnacle.
I am a little more selfish, I'll be honest. I know Toby very well at this point.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
And I think he is like me. And while we do enjoy sharing,
Yes.
there are certain hookups, honestly, that are just mine. Like
for sure.
I'm not introducing you to my spouse.
Right.
Because what we have is like a very special thing.
Yes.
It's not love. It is intimate, but
Right.
it's just like I have particular sons where it's like, this isn't going to vibe with the three of us.
Right.
Like we have a very particular back and forth as daddy son. So I'm going to keep it that way. And then we'll meet up with, you know, a third or a fourth that has less of a role attached to it. But I can be a little selfish. I think my husband is more generous than I am.
I think that's, I know it's so funny, the parallels in our relationships, that it even comes down to how we behave.
Well, I grew up sharing a bedroom until I graduated high school, and that's why I'm so selfish.
Right. Yeah,
I'm like, this is mine.
Toby shared a bedroom for quite a while too. Yeah, I mean, listen, Toby and I are different in that way, the way that you and Bruce are different in that, and we talk about this openly, that I'm happy to spend all my time with him.
Mm-hmm.
And my family.
Mm-hmm.
And, well, I'll retract that. I'm happy to spend all my time with him.
Mm-hmm.
I do need time away from the kids sometimes.
Thank you for saying that.
I mean,
it's the most important thing you've said today.
But what's that?
It's the most important thing you've said today. That you need time away from the children.
Oh my
Seriously.
God. I love those kids to pieces. But yes, parents need time away from their kids. But I could spend pretty much all my time with Toby and be happy about that. And I know, just like you said, like there are times that Toby just needs more space than I do, more alone time than I do. You know, he very much related to what you said in a recent episode about like when you get frustrated, it's less about being frustrated with Bruce than just with the fact that there is another person in your presence
at all. Yeah.
And I know that we talk about that, and so yes, that impacts everything, including how we engage together in group sex. You know, like for me, I'd be happy to do it all the time, and for him, it's like, you know, maybe once a year.
Yeah, let's not put it on the calendar for a monthly.
Yet.
Quite yet.
I know. Was once a month too big an ask?
It's not, because once a month is probably our cadence, if you will.
Right.
Like we probably have a third over once a month, maybe twice a month, or maybe more than that too, because we go to sexy stuff and we'll like play with a third.
Right.
But in terms of just like hosting one other person over, I would say like once a month is normal. It's definitely doable.
Right.
It's manageable.
Right.
It's possible.
And this coming from an Ohioan who is selfish and
who is selfish, narcissistic.
No, that you're not.
Overplanned.
Overplanned, maybe, but you are not narcissistic. I say this having some very direct experience with narcissists in my life. Thankfully, none of whom I live with. All right. Thank you so much for answering all this.
Thank you for asking such good questions. And thank you for saying, like, you dropped so many nuggets that were like, oh, that reminds me to ask him about this or make this statement.
Thank you for outing me for having been double penetrated.
Of course.
That is something I did not think some of these listeners would ever know about me.
Well, they do now.
I know. It's fine.
So listeners, heading into your thirds, like, be of service to them.
Yeah.
Stick to the schedule.
Stick to the schedule?
Yeah, if you say you're going to hook up at a certain time, like show up.
Yes.
And also, like, if you've never had, we say this about sex parties, you need to have a lot of threesomes for threesomes to be great. Like, if your first one is bad, please don't let that be an indicator that threesomes are bad. It's just an indicator that that threesome was bad.
Right. And I definitely think that's true, like you said, about sex parties. I know that, like, yes, I have friends who I've brought to sex parties, and they're like, this is not for me. And it's like, well, I do think it takes some getting used to.
I hate introducing people to a bummer sex party.
Well,
I'm like,
the sex party I introduced these friends to was not a bummer sex party. It was a sex party that our friends throw, and
that's
it's an
a good
amazing
one.
sex party. I don't think there's a better one, but I still think your first time at a sex party, there's so much attached to that.
Yeah.
That you're almost destined not to enjoy the first one.
I liked my first one.
Okay. Well, it depends on who you are, I guess. Yeah. But
I was a 25-year-old Twinkie star.
Right.
So I had a great time.
I could see that. Yeah. All right. Let's take a break and come back with Go Ask Your Dad.
Sounds great. Welcome back, listeners, to Go Ask Your Dad. This is the Dear Abby of gay sex and relationships. Just a disclaimer.
As the cease and desist letter comes through.
No advertisers, but plenty of cease and desist. Just a reminder, Brian and I are not mental health professionals. We are not financial planners. We are just two gay men who have considerable number of years out and proud. And this is just our lived experience. Brian?
Yeah. If you would like to submit a Go Ask Your Dad question, and we really ask that you do, please email it to us at dadsanddaddies@gmail.com. You can also DM us at dadsanddaddiespod. You can submit it through our website, dadsanddaddies.com. If we use your question, we will send you a Go Ask Your Dad cap. And just a reminder that our favorite Go Ask Your Dads are sent to us as voice memos so that all of our listeners can hear your beautiful voice. This Go Ask Your Dad came in, believe it or not, as a comment on one of our TikToks.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Cool. Great.
Here we go. My partner wants to hook up on an ongoing basis with a woman. We are both bi. But that woman is a longtime friend, and she doesn't want to tell her husband. I think this is wrong. We all have known each other for 25 years. Should I give him the freedom he wants? I usually don't say no, but this doesn't feel right.
Listen, in my experience, when sex among friends gets into the fold, it all comes out.
Yeah.
Those secrets are just not meant to be kept. So you cannot say yes or no. Or here's my advice. When my husband tells me no, I immediately go do it because that's how I'm programmed. When my husband makes me think about the consequences, I get to decide for myself. So my recommendation here, because it sounds like it could be super tricky, is to have your husband consider the ramifications if the woman's husband were to find out. Because it could go either way. Like maybe the husband is hot and, the four of you become a thing. Or maybe he fucking hates your guts till the end of time and it terminates the friendship. So rather than just say no, because if your husband's like me, he's going to do it a little bit to spite you, consider what could happen if all truths were revealed.
Yeah, I don't think we're ever going to condone dishonesty, deceit, lying. We've talked many times about how our motto here, or Judson's motto that I've adopted, is open, honest, and direct. And the other thing that we've talked about is that there are many fish in the sea, in this case, literally. But I get that it might seem sexy with this person because there's a comfort level there already, and it's easy to imagine. And this person or your partner knows this person and has already thought about her in a sexual way, but there are other women out there who are going to be much less complicated and have much less of a negative impact if, people feel hurt by dishonesty. So I think my gut would be, listen, what Judson describes, I'm also familiar with in terms of like, I know these 42-year-old Ohioans, and if you say no, then all they want to do is.
I love that we're a population now.
What's that?
I love that we're a population now. 42-year-old Ohioans. Yep.
Gay 42-year-old white cisgendered male Ohioans. Anyway, but I mean, I listen. I don't. I think it does not feel good to us the way it does not feel good to you. And I think there are probably other solutions, like I said, meaning like other women who this wouldn't break up a 25-year friendship. So yeah, I mean, I think it's beautiful that you don't want to say no to your husband and that you want to give your husband all the freedom. But I think you got to listen to. We also talk about you got to listen to your gut, and your gut seems to be telling you that this feels bad to lie to somebody who has been a friend for 25 years.
The thing that's interesting too, because we've had similar questions before about operating within like the friend sphere. I think the more forbidden the fruit, the sweeter the taste.
Oh, well, sure.
Like this woman is very, very attractive to your partner expressly because it's a complicated situation,
right.
Which is not good or bad. It just is, and very indicative of how the human brain works.
I do wonder, and listen, I don't know your friendship obviously at all, if the four of you could have an open, honest, and direct conversation about the desires and see where it goes. And if you see that it's not going where it should, then just cut it off and to save the friendship. But again, obviously, this woman who it appears is the one who does not want her husband to know would have to buy off on that first. I wouldn't blindside anybody with any of this.
Your next foursome dinner. So we were thinking.
So there you are. Thank you for the question.
Great question. Good luck.
Yeah, we wish you the best of luck. And again, please send us your questions. And I mentioned the website, dadsanddaddies.com. That is also a place where you can sign up for our newsletter. We send out a newsletter every Tuesday morning when our episodes come out to remind you about the episode, to let you know what we're talking about that week, and sometimes also has some other interesting fun facts and information. So please go to our website, sign up for the newsletter. While you're there, you can also visit the Dads and Daddies store. And we have t-shirts, tank tops, caps, towels. Did I mention keychains? We've got a bunch of stuff. So check us out there. And I think that's all I got.
Sounds great. Brian, lovely to see you. I hope you have an amazing weekend.
You too. We'll see you in a week.
Bye, everybody.